Hi everybody, welcome back once again to the Eastfield Gunroom YouTube channel with me, your gun nut host, Matthew Morgan. As ever, I'd like to thank you all for liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. If you do like our stuff, give us a like, give us a subscribe, because we do appreciate your support. As ever, this video is proudly sponsored by the British Shooting Show. Not far till Christmas now, so you might get some Christmas money. You can stash it all away and go and treat yourself in February. So what have we got to show you today? As you all know already, it is a very, very special year for Browning. It is 100 years of the B25, celebrating the Browning B25, one of John Moses Browning's very famous creations. We have looked at a few B25s on the channel before, but we haven't looked at anything like this. So today, I bring you a Browning B25 custom. Now, that is exactly as it sounds. The basic idea behind the custom is that someone has taken a basic grade, handmade completely, B25, and for want of a better word, bastardized it into something very ornate, very pretty, exactly like the gun I've got in front of me today. It was commonplace throughout the certainly the 1990s and early 2000s here in the UK to get hold of a basic grade A1, B1, etc., and then send it to Belgium via various gun dealers. There was a guy called John Foster up in Stockton-on-Tees, who's sadly no longer with us, was very prevalent in terms of the custom side of things. FJ Wiseman in Cannock, they used to do and still do to a point. And it was a question of deciding what you wanted from your basic B25 and how you wanted it to look in terms of the engraving, the stocking, etc. And there was so many of these guns built, a lot of them over in Belgium, in Liège, when quite frankly, the people working at Browning should have been doing the proper job. So this gun is extremely interesting because it's actually a small gauge. Now, you don't tend to see too many 20-bore B25s full stop. A lot of the older guns tend to be 26.5-inch barrel, which we all know in today's shooting world is pretty pointless, particularly from a game shooting point of view. Everybody wants long barrels. So what we've got here, we've got a very special piece. It's actually a 32-inch 20-bore B25 custom. So what we've got here is we have got, in essence, it's a handmade gun. We know about that. We know about the history and know about the heritage of the B25. But this gun would have started life back in sometime between 1969 and 1975, going off the serial number, as a basic gun, probably a basic superposed with a black action. And what someone has done is they've taken that gun and give it a completely new lease of life. And now it looks like this. So we'll start off with the action, and this particular gun is very, very interesting because a lot of the B25 customs you tend to see don't bear an engraver's signature. And that was basically down to the fact that the people that were engraving them were engravers for Browning, but a lot of these guns were kind of done off the radar, moonlighting. So of course, the last thing they're going to do is put the name on it. Now, this particular gun is engraved by someone called Paul Dubois, who, although he didn't work for Browning, did a lot of work for Browning. Now, he's very, very highly acclaimed master engraver, still engraves to this day, and is currently working with I think it's a Belgian or French company called Les Amis, or something like that, but Google it. Some of the stuff he has done is absolutely sensational, and this gun is no exception. So what we've got here, we have got obviously a brushed finish, coin finished action, and we have got, you've got to stand right next to this gun, and hopefully you'll be able to see in the close-ups to see the level of intricacy in this engraving. I have seen a lot of B25 customs over the years. This is without a doubt right up there in terms of the best that I have seen. So what normally happens with a B25 custom is the end user would choose a style of engraving. You know, if it was a box lock, it was quite often a D4G. There was a lot of those done. There was a lot of D5s. And it was basically to mimic the higher grade creme de la creme off-the-shelf version, but do it as a much more cost-effective way of owning a high-grade looking B25. Now, this gun is side-plated. We have got a fantastic mix of kind of deep scroll work like you'd get on a D4G or a D5G, that kind of bold Germanic stuff. But in amongst that, you've got these very finely executed game scenes. We've got pheasants on the one side, we've got a pheasant coming into land, or it might be a duck. It's difficult to see from the front. And my game bird identification skills are pretty poor, as Max will vouch for. Quite often we've been filming out in the field and I've gone, oh look, it's a pigeon, and clearly it wasn't a pigeon. So what we've got on this side, these are definitely pheasants, and it's this beautiful kind of, you've got like Christmas trees, like fir trees in the background. The attention to detail is absolutely out of this world. You can see the different depths in the engraving. You can see the contours of the background. And like I said, coupled with this really, really deep cut scroll work, And what you've got to remember is with a B25 custom, it's not just about engraving the side plates. There's a lot of work that goes into that gun to be able to make it ready to be engraved. You know, there's a lot of action filing. We've got these carved edges, these scalloped out bits, hours and hours and hours of work before you've even got a blank canvas to let the engraver at it. Onto the other side, and we've got, that's an elephant. No, that's a duck. So we've got some duck and some woodcock, and you've got to look so closely at this gun just to see the level of detail. We've got stippling in between the really, really deep cut, completely hand cut engraving. We've got another game scene, and if you look in the distance, you can kind of see the reeds. You can see where the water is actually shimmering. I hope you can see all of this in the close-ups because it is a beautiful thing and very much a jewel to behold. Every screw is engraved. We've got some bouquets of like exploding flowers, which is quite interesting because it's a bonfire night. And everywhere you look, it's just sensational. If you look at a lot of B25 customs, there is a degree of engraving on, there is a degree of depth, but to find one that's this intricate and has been executed to such a high level with God knows how many hours, probably 600-800 hours, maybe even more, gone into this one piece. It is a spectacular gun. Now, I'm a huge fan of B25s anyway. Not always a huge fan of the mixture between the game scene and the scroll. I do like the D4G, but I think as a pattern, I probably prefer the D5, which is just scroll work. This really, really, really works. The trigger guard, we've got some spiky stuff and some roses going back into a full tang. Everything is engraved, of course. You can't help but be impressed the level of detail on this gun. Underneath the action, we have got a little woodcock or a little snipe. It's certainly something with a pointy beak. In this little vignette, we've got this explosion of more floral bouquet and roses. And it's just so well put together. There's nothing that seems out of place in terms of the scenes or the level of scroll work. It's not over the top. This, of course, being a game gun, has got a fixed trigger, so it's just this brushed single blade. And as you would expect with all top quality customs that people are allowed to talk about, we have got the engraver's signature just on the bottom of the plate between the trigger guard. If I go onto the top, the engraving continues. We've got a pierced top lever. That basically means it's a top lever with a hole in it. Again, profusely engraved. We've got some more, looks like little sunflowers on the top lever. The back strap, if we open the gun, the serial number is hand engraved. We've even got stippled lines down the side of the strap. Just something like that. If you went to a gunsmith and said, can you just do me a bit of stippling? The cost, I dread to think it will be astronomical because it's such a skill and such fine detail that you are requesting from that man or lady. Selector engraved again. We've got an S in gold and the O and the U in gold. Even the little selector switch itself, we've got the same kind of engraving. A little bit like those kind of feathery things you used to get on the A1s just on the barrel wings. And then to finish it off, we've got engraved barrel wings with, again, more stippling. There's so much stippling going on between the really, really deep stuff. Like I said, you've really got to look at this closely to appreciate how stunning it is. So that's kind of the action covered. That's the focal point of this gun. But what you've got to remember is it's a B25. It's going to handle like absolutely nothing else. This one, 32 inch. Obviously, at some point, as it didn't come out the factory as a 32-inch barrel gun, it's been rebarreled. It's got a solid mid-rib, ventilated top rib, and at the moment, this gun is fixed choke at full and 3/4. Now, we talk a lot on this channel about the requirements of modern-day game shooters. They want long barrels, tight chokes, because they're shooting taller and taller pheasants. This is kind of like the ultimate tall bird, small bore. Yes, of course, you could get it Teague multi-choked, you could have it bored out a bit, but that will absolutely take away from what this gun is all about and its dedication as a tall pheasant gun. One of the most exciting and one of the most definitive features of a B25 custom in many cases, or of course a high-grade D4, D5, whatever, is the three-piece forward. Now, Browning absolutely perfected this with their hand-built guns, the B25s, as well as people wanting to emulate it in the customs. And what you've got there is you've got a split down the forward. It's essentially in two pieces, and the bottom part slides. Now, it looks extremely elegant. You've got these kind of screws in the top, which are completely hand engraved, and you know, it just gives the gun an air of that added extra prestige-ness. However, if you're a B25 owner, you will know they can be a little bit tricky to get on and off because the way it's designed is, of course, the wood has to be nice and tight. So if your hands are wet and you've been out shooting, it's always a little bit tricky just to slide it forward. I will, however, have a go. So latch comes down, push it forward, and just like that, like Tommy Cooper, I've managed to push the forend, the bottom part of the forend forward, but it is tricky, it is stiff. Now we've got the catch down completely, and now if we open the top lever, we can take the gun apart. That is the same as a normal B25, B2G, we did that 20 bore special. They're all got that style of forend, but they haven't all got a 3-piece forend. I have even known people in the past when they've had customs built to have a dummy 3-piece forend, so it looks like that, but it operates simply like that without having the bit that fires forward, because that is tricky. So if we look at the business end, we've got the original choke denominations. We've got polished ejectors with these nice little crisscrosses. Looks like a game of noughts and crosses. We've got the serial number there, serial number on the actual forend latch. Now this particular gun is bored at, I think it was 15.9. So it's got quite tight bores. So in terms of patterning, you're gonna get some really, really good patterns out of this particular gun. The gun is 2 3/4 inch chambers, so it's 2070 stamped on the gun. And interestingly enough, on this particular gun, there's nothing actually written on the barrels in terms of it being a Browning, etc., like you would get on, if you want to say, the genuine article. So we'll pop it back together and hope that we don't get a hernia putting the forend on. It's usually quite straightforward. Pop that into there. There you go. Simple as peas, okay, done. Now the gun itself weighs £6 13 ounces. If you'd got something like a Beretta 20 bore, for example, it'd probably be a little bit lighter, but let's not forget we've got a slightly deeper body action. We've got the extra weight of those side plates, and the balance is a touch barrel heavy, which you'd probably kind of expect, because although this wood, which we're going to move on to shortly, is fantastically figured, it's quite a lightweight piece of wood. So onto the stock itself, and you'd have to go a long, long way to find a better piece of wood than this. I mean, the whole gun comes across as just being a stunning piece, and that is largely down to the woodwork. I would suggest this is probably French walnut. It's extremely well figured. You have got all these little burrs in there, and when you're buying wood and looking at having wood put on a shotgun, all those little intricacies are something that just adds to the cost. So you know that this gun, before it was stocked, the person that chose this piece of wood had deep pockets. So what we've got a mixture. We've got some fiddleback, which is like tiger stripes across the top of the comb. We have got these lovely black streaks running through it, all these like little jaggy bits, almost like, you know, like lightning strikes. We've got the burr walnut bits across the bottom. All those holes, if there was any holes in the blank, have all been expertly filled. The stock itself, in terms of the height, is traditional Browning. It's like 36, 56. It's quite flat. We've got this lovely semi-pistol grip stock with this very, very fine checkering. We've got a completely concealed butt plate at the back, which has been hand checkered. Now, another good point with this particular gun is a lot of B25 customs, usually quite short in the stock, 14.5 inch. Here we've got 15 inches of wood. So if you're a taller guy like myself, we talk about this on the channel quite a lot. You've got a nice looking gun. You don't want it to look like a dog's dinner by making it a bit longer. Masses and masses of scope to make this longer with something like an English steel with pad or a Kickies, should you need that in terms of gun fit requirements. Interesting thing with this gun is there's no oval, which, you know, not everybody has an oval put in it. You, of course, could have one put in, no problem whatsoever. And it's got a very, very nice, not too shiny kind of London oil finish, but there's just enough sheen on it just to make the wood pop, because that is, I keep saying it, an absolutely sensational piece of woodwork. The forend, of course, is completely matched. Now, what you tend to find, again, with a B25 custom, particularly one with a 3-piece forend, because there is so much checkering on it, you can't really see the wood grade. But I think that's all part of the appeal of the B25, where it just kind of works. It just seems completely seamless, if you like, and it's kind of, that gun is instantly recognizable because of that 3-piece forend. I know I keep banging on about it, but this is quite a unique gun. If you want a small bore, a lot of people like them at the moment. They are very, very popular, but you are limited if you want long, long barrels, particularly from the likes of Browning or Beretta. You would normally have to go for a Parazzi or a Caesar Guerini or a Rosini. if you're a B25 fan, this is a rare piece. Final point with the wood, the actual checkering style, it's checkered, in the style of a D grade, so the checkering pretty much goes all the way over the top of the wrist. So, interestingly enough, with this particular gun, we have got a case. There isn't any kind of paperwork, but that's the norm with a custom, because usually the paperwork of a custom is written on a fag packet in a little pub in Belgium, because it's all about the customer's requirements, exactly what they desire, and making all those things come together, the restocking, the engraving, the barrel length, making that dream happen. So we have got a case. It's a Browning custom shop case. It's a leather case of probably the 1990s. Now, I would say that's probably when this gun was customized, because like I said at the start of the video, that was rife during that period. There was a lot of people having A1s and B1s customized to this level. Not quite to this level, but there was certainly a lot of it going on. So the case itself is a standard custom shop case. It is brown tan leather. We've got the brown velour inside, a few nice little touches. We've got a leather strap, like a little belt for a borrower, with a brass buckle to secure the stock and action. And of course, up here, we've also got a little loop where the barrels will sit in, just to stop them moving around in transit. On top of that, we've got this, it's not a handkerchief or a sample from a sewing machine shop. It is actually, I think, just to go over the top of here and just put, you know, a nice little touch on top of your booklets or your whatever. There's a place for some snap caps, and that's pretty much it. There is no combination. There is a combination. I was expecting a little key, but no, we've got a nice little brass combination. And this is a box that was made by, I believe, MMMMB, who are masters at making premium shotgun cases. So that has been, ladies and gentlemen, the sensational B25 custom side plate. Yes, there are a lot of custom side plates out there, but I challenge you to find one that is as pretty and as well put together as this. You could argue that it's a very specific, dedicated gun because of the choking and the long barrels, but it's also very universal if you wanted to do something about that choking and use it for partridges or whatever. It is an absolute stunner. I've certainly never seen anything like it before. To have one built today, I dread to think you would probably be looking in excess of probably 60 or 70,000 pounds, I would imagine. If you would like any more information about this particular gun, please do contact me directly. Don't forget to check out the website. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel if you have enjoyed me waffling about B25s, because there's lots more to come. And as ever, this video is proudly sponsored by the British Shooting Show. Another one of the fabulous B25s that I keep trying to bang on about and try and educate people about, because these guns are incredible. As you've seen from various videos we've done before, they are available for not a lot of money. You need to appreciate these guns, you need to understand these guns, and then you'll turn into a B25 nut like I am. Me, Matthew Morgan, the Eastfield Gunroom YouTube channel. I'll see you next time.